Welcome to the world of Level Up Weekly, a bounteous, open podcast filled with amazing loot, legitimately challenging enemies, but not too difficult to defeat, and of course, the EXP. Join our fellow big headphone adventurers Stealing the Dude and Spurnaday as they journey on a quest to find the EXP from gaming news and discussion. Hello everybody, welcome to Level Up Weekly, your weekly EXP for gaming news. And to start with, obviously it seems like we're a little bit flustered or whatever. I'll be honest with you, today we come in, at least for myself, fairly exhausted after a day that originally started out to be a very simple and short day at my workplace to something that turned into something with a lot more chaos behind it. But that's okay, because we're here. We're in our computer chairs. We have our lovely supporters through Patreon, through Twitter, through whatever platform, Twitch, YouTube, Podbean, SoundCloud, iTunes.
We are on a lot of places.
Campgrounds.
They're probably listening to us
the corner.
on campgrounds.
I mean, who knows? We're everywhere, and that's a good thing, I think. I hope that's a good thing that we're everywhere.
2 new followers already.
Indeed. We're already...
2 new followers in the first 4 minutes of the show.
Yeah, and we are geeking out about it because we love you guys, and we love being able to do this podcast and just to be able to sit down and do what we love doing best. Dylan and I, the amount of times that you and I have just sat down and just had general conversations about almost anything. I mean, we've gone to the point of being philosophical about things, which maybe we'll cover one day on this podcast. This is more of a gaming podcast, so maybe we won't go into that. Maybe we'll make up another podcast that's just called Level Up Philosophies.
Well, I mean, you have to
I'll save that domain.
There's got to be some clever little philosophy and philosophical thinking behind the wonders of Overwatch porn.
Oh my goodness.
I gotta get that mentioned at least once or twice a season.
Oh my goodness. I feel like we should just... I almost feel like we're beating a dead horse with that reference, but you know what? That's okay. We're not professionals. We're just good at what we do.
Exactly.
I think.
I
don't know.
Maybe.
I guess you guys are technically the reason how we would determine that. But anyway, start with, Dylan, E3 is coming up next week.
Oh my God!
Any of you that have ever watched any of our previous podcasts from season 2, no, more or less season 1, actually, because season 2 didn't have E3 during that time. Season 1, we had probably one of our most favorite debates, even to this day, where we decided who actually won E3, which was either Microsoft, was it Sony, or was it Nintendo? And we get to do that again.
Yep.
That's next week's podcast. I'm really excited. Wow.
I
unplugged this.
I can't hear. Well...
Anyhow, I'm really excited that we get the opportunity to follow up and do what we did once upon a time.
Yes.
It's really, really exciting that we get to go back and re-debate what happened. And this time we have a lot of fun rumors that we're going to go through.
Yep.
This week, we're going to be talking about some rumors that potentially might circulate on what might be talked about at E3. Nothing necessarily has been confirmed yet. Maybe we know that Starfield right now from Bethesda Games has been confirmed. Most likely will be talked about. But I will say this, though. For future reference for next week, I feel like Microsoft is going to become the winner out of this situation. And I'm only saying that right now because when you look at a lot of press coverage that has been going on, they really look like the favorite because there's the thing I was reading earlier that they're potentially filing the trademark for a more virtual reality gaming headset type system coming up in the future, which potentially could correlate to Project Scorpio. Potentially coming out of the gates finally, and maybe that will lead to something more successful. But that's not to say that I think Nintendo is also in for a run for its money too, because there's also that rumor coming up here, which we'll talk about shortly.
Well, now, if I can start before we get into all the nitty-gritty rumors, what we want to see. First, I'd like to ask, do you have any fond memories growing up of E3? Because E3 has been going on for years and years, and I have a few personal little stories about it, but I'm wondering, do you have any former experience or stories about E3?
I will be 100% honest with you. Before I technically started doing podcast work in general, and this is like back in the day when I did JCast, so probably my junior year of high school, so this is about 5 years now, I don't really remember a lot about E3. I know when E3 came about, it was like, oh, big announcement's about to go underway, because E3 was the big dog announcement platform. I guess I could put that as. I'm tired. I think
That's me tired. I'm done.
Thank you. Dad jokes are out of the way now. But ever since then, I've always really enjoyed E3. Like, it's one of those press conferences that you go in and you don't know what is going to happen, but your major game companies are there, and they're gonna come out and say, "Hey, guess what? This is coming out," or "Hey, guess what? This is coming out," and then you react and start getting cringeworthy notices of it.
My stories are gonna make me sound a little bit more dishonest than I actually am, because I was so hyped after I first saw E3 when I was about probably a freshman. I remember seeing E3 was going on, and I was hooked.
Mm-hmm.
The next year, school happened to still be going when E3 happened.
Okay.
So and it was like the last week, or like the second to last week of school. I faked being sick that entire week just to stay home and watch E3. And then the next year, I got sick and called into work on one of the days that they wanted me to come in and work, just so I could see Microsoft's announcement at 9 a.m.
Oh, you dastardly dog.
And even worse than that, I think the best one was the time when I took an extended lunch break at work to go into the bathroom, pull out my phone, and watch the live stream of, I think it was Nintendo's 2000... it was when they announced the Wii U.
Okay.
So, I love E3. I love the culture of E3. I love what happens there, the announcements, the fun. And I used to watch it on TV when it was aired on TV. Now it's exclusively through Twitch, exclusively through, like, streaming platforms online. But
I think actually, to touch on that, I think Twitch is the only primary platform through there. Now, no. Let me actually retract that, and I may need to confirm this source later. You know what? I guess I might as well just look this up now to get out of the way. Don't break the mic. I had enough room.
There we go. No, I was doing it for me.
Where can you watch E3 this year?
I like how it said, "Where can you watch Game of Thrones TV?"
Where can you watch Game of Thrones? You can find it on piratebay.com. Okay, so E3 2017. I'll go ahead and pull this up on the screen here. E3 2017 live streams and press conferences here from IGN's website. You're able to, let's see, you can install these apps now. There are many apps and channels where you can watch the E3 2017 live streams. We recommend the following things. So you could actually watch it through IGN, or you could watch through Twitch, and it looks
Mixer,
like there's some various cable
YouTube.
TV channels that also
Really?
get it, which is interesting. You know what? Actually, I'm sure when they're mentioning their Twitch channel, I could see they're most likely press coverage, so it's not necessarily the actual broadcast system, but it's probably someone behind the scenes conducting the interviews and all of that, not necessarily the main stage events. It's very possible that could also come underneath there. Various cable TV channels, TiVo boxes will have that, RNC, Mid-Continental, WoW, Fidelity Cable Service, Chantel, Clear Creek, Eagle. It seems like a lot of them are actually outside of the United States or just smaller companies in general, which still, that's pretty awesome that you get that video game coverage right there. I'll move this mic back here. Sorry if that makes any noise. Pluto TV channel. I'm assuming that's most likely their default platform. Wow. This is very interesting. I've actually never been to Pluto before. Pluto.tv has live TV that's shown here. There's Welcome to Skyrim. Is this IGN's default platform?
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
whoa! We might have just made an interesting discovery here, because that has a planned time slot for everything. Welcome to Skyrim, Molag Ball in the end. Current video. Welcome to Skyrim Episode 8. Molag Ball does not easily reward us. They have their own TV platform you can watch online. That is insane, and how I have never heard about that. I mean, really surprises me.
If you go back to that thing real quick,
Sure.
This seems like it's this Pluto seems kind of like it's a more nerdy version of TV. I'm gonna adjust myself here so you can see me without the mic.
Oh, it's fine. We don't want to see your face anyway. I'm sorry.
If you notice here, they have like MST3K and Rift Tracks, which are a kind of like movie parody thing where like people watch movies and rip on them.
Right.
It seems like Pluto is more just a general nerd culture cable network.
Yeah.
And that is really something cool. That
I don't even know if I
about.
would consider this a cable network because this is ran online. So theoretically, it's not an actual cable network, but it's an online TV provider network.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's cool. Learned something new today.
We'll have to look into that more later.
That's actually kind of surprising that neither of us knew about that, but whatever. I mean, that's what we're here for. We're here to learn new things. IGN's Kindle app, pretty much, I'll put it like this. Watch it on IGN or watch it on Twitch.
Yeah. And also, there's probably going to be more reaction videos where people watch themselves reacting to. So you'll be able to find out somehow how to watch this thing.
You're literally going to be... I just remembered why I never subscribed to IGN's YouTube channel now that I think about it. Because they used to riddle my subscription box full of different miscellaneous videos
that
like
no one that you would not care about.
Not necessarily that they wouldn't watch. It's just like it was like as if YouTube for them was their own uploading platform to put every single news article that was coming out at the time. So you and that's not, and I'm not bashing them for this.
No.
It's just me personally when I'm like, hey, I want to go watch the latest, gaming video or watch the content that I want to watch. I maybe might watch like an episode or two from IGN and be like, oh, here's this news, here's that news. I just hit the microphone, hit this news, hit that news, or whatever. But this case, it's like, oh, there's just too many. It's like it takes your entire box full, and you're like, I missed a video because apparently IGN wanted to be my subscription box. I should just literally have a subscription box for IGN if I subscribe to them.
Or it's even in the case where it's like, oh, let's see, look at, I have 90 new videos from IGN. Boy, how do I not want to go through these because I don't want to go through every individual title.
Goes and spends like 24 hours on literally the first day of IGN subscriptions.
I don't care about the Clifford the dog game.
So anyway, that's going to be your coverage on where you can find this stuff here. So make sure that you guys are active. I'll just go ahead and put a general link in the description for IGN, and I'll put a general link in the description for some the coverage that we're also going to do on Twitch.
Click on the Microsoft versus Sony versus Nintendo comparison chart.
Microsoft versus Sony versus Nintendo. Okay, there it is. Look at that. Shout out to IGN. We love you because you guys sometimes help us out big time. So console manufacturers Microsoft and Sony Nintendo could introduce a plethora of games announced beneath the 2017. This page collects and compares highlights from each conference once they've made their announcements.
So this will be what we use for our debate, probably.
Neato. I'm going to make sure that I use this so that make sure I've got the latest news. In case you guys are curious, I will also put that in the Twitch chat also so that you guys have the availability as well. But this will definitely be going in our discussion page.
While I am muting this, continue on with what you're talking about.
As Dylan is getting his phone blown up. So anyway, before we touch into that, this weekend was a very interesting thing that I do want to touch base on, as this was a topic that I think we should just take a second or two to really talk about. Dylan, in terms of esports, how many physical events or how many events in general have you watched? Like, let's talk about your background for a second in esports. Like, how many professionally broadcasted events or physical professional events have you gone to that you could base this opinion off of for the future reference?
All right, well, in actual physical attendance where I show up, clearly being from our area, our neck of the woods, not a very common thing.
Right.
I have, however, especially back in the time when, again, I loved E3, I watched G4 every day.
Yep.
I got to see plenty of Halo tournaments, plenty of Team TF2 tournaments, Counter-Strike, just a lot of miscellaneous tournaments. Probably most recently, the things I caught a little bit of. I did actually catch a little bit of RLCS because of, and that's not technically like esport, like the, like it is a tournament, but it's not like on the level of like a MOBA or anything. But that is what I saw.
Where you walk.
I know. I'm trying to tread lightly to not annoy the Dota fans, but not annoy the Rocket League fans.
Don't annoy me either.
Anyway, I watched a little bit of RLCS, a bit of Overwatch Open, and probably the most recent thing I watched was Evo. Or one of like the more things I watch every year is Evo, which is a big fighting game tournament. So I watch enough esports to know how they're presented and kind of enjoy them, but I'm not like watching every single tournament out there.
Right. It's not like as if when the playoffs come along, you're like, oh gosh, I gotta watch this like right now. Oh, this is
Dota 2's on, man. I love that.
The International. Game. What? I need to go watch that right away. Like you're not that kind of person, but you will definitely turn on and see if you can watch it. Yeah. Okay. The reason I'd asked is because watching the Rocket League Championship Series this weekend, which was insane to see. As of course, for those of you that obviously know me, being part of Rocket League is a really cool thing because I get to see what it's like to see an opening esport develop itself and see how they end up continuing to push themselves to move forward. To see the first Rocket League Championship Series only peak at about 80,000 on like one particular matchup to now getting about a concurrency viewership of 190,000 on the third season through. Phenomenal exponential growth, which is beautiful to see. But that brought to me a question that I wanted to bring up, and that is, in an esports environment, when is it considered the point where you having a LAN event is what's going to push you to the top? And if that question's really weirdly worded, let me try to rephrase it. Basically, what I'm trying to ask is, so if you're trying to make an esports scene, do you theoretically have to run a LAN event or events, plural, in order for them to be considered successful? Let me get your take on that to start with.
All right, well, I guess kind of my thought on that is, yes, most games are played online now, and you can be played with stellar connection, and just, it can be played really well. I believe LAN events are still very necessary because, especially when you're putting prize money on the line, you're putting, like, all this work into it, LAN events are kind of what keep everything in check, everything fair. Great example. You can do, say, the Halo tournaments, 5v5. Someone on one team could have a slightly jankier connection or something like that, and that could drastically affect the in-game, the finals or the semifinals or whatever. And could you really call them on that? Could you say, oh, you're disqualified for having a bad internet connection, or you're this, you're that? It also kind of gives it more of an epic feel, more of like a big match feel to have a LAN event, a big stage with everyone performing. I mean, you went to Shudo, right?
Yeah.
ShudoCon. Did you manage to go to the gaming area at all? Mm-hmm. Did you see the big stages they had set up for, Smash?
Yeah.
That is also just presentation-wise a lot cooler than just saying, and here we are now with two people playing on the internet. We take you now live to camera 1 in that guy's house, camera 2 in that guy's house,
right?
Camera 3 in that guy's house. But so I do think that LAN events they do have a purpose. They are necessary to me.
Yep.
If not for the keeping everything fair, if just for aesthetic.
What I think, and I just want to get your take on it, and let me add to your scenario here. I do agree that it also presents a consistency factor into it. When you're all in the physical same location, you're typically relaying off of the same network, or in some cases not even a network, but just in general the physical location, which can really benefit from it because then you have all of your materials, all of your assets, everything all together in one location to make a more consistent tournament where you're more or less not focusing on that lag spike that you got after you end up getting killed. It was rather something how you have the actual skill factor coming into play.
Yeah.
So that part I agree with. That's I think, in my opinion, we could consider that a granted phase. The one thing that I found very interesting was you really see a genuine difference when you actually go to a LAN event. And I think what's really cool about it is that for going to a LAN, you notice that obviously you can physically see crowds there, which is a beautiful thing, by the way. And I think when you create this environment that people can come in and, you know, they're playing at the top level they possibly can, and then you have an audience that watches it, I think that's just something that is what makes that, in my opinion, a genuine sport. I know we talked about, you know, what makes an esport earlier and how it's actually a sport, but I mean an actual truly entertaining sport to watch. When you can go to an arena, when you can go to a stadium, when you can go to a theater arena, whatever it's technically considered. It's a theater, but they book it out as that area. I think that's something that you really can't replace. I think that's something that I would invest into a ticket to physically go to that location, just like you would to go physically get a ticket to go to a basketball game, or go physically get a ticket to go to a football game. I think seeing that environment really kind of tips off where you sit at as an esport. I know that was something we probably could have talked about a couple weeks ago when we were talking about what really makes an esport, but I think that's really something to consider. Is, I mean, if you can make a LAN environment where you have a community of people who just knew each other by their voices and their gameplay, and bring them physically together to get to know each other, to basically have friends reunite or join together for the first time, is such a cool and riveting experience. We saw a testament of that, and I saw a lot of this at RLCS. There's people that have known each other for the 2 years that Rocket League has been out and have never physically met them before. But when it came to this event, it was so cool that so many people were just flabbergasted, jaw-dropped, and amazed to see what it's like to actually see that other person that they've been talking to for who knows how long.
And that is a very important part of it, and that's great for the performer, for the actual competitors, for the people that they watch. Like if they watch a streamer online, you know, yeah, you see them online, but you don't see them in person. You don't see how they play. You don't see how they like in person, which is another cool thing.
Right.
Probably one of the biggest things that I would also say you get an advantage for doing this is simply the crowd reaction.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, and again, I'll bring up, because Xavier Woods was at RLCS, take wrestling as an example. If you're watching a wrestling match and the crowd is dead, they're not reacting, you're just seeing two guys putting each other in headlocks, boring.
Yep.
You don't get emotionally invested. Say you're watching some guy play Rocket League on Twitch, barely talking at all, the chat's basically dead. He could have the best, coolest, most awesome come-from-behind victory. Like, he could be down 5, come up and win 6, and the most amazing comeback. But if you don't get people emotionally invested, and you don't get people into it, it doesn't matter. Who cares?
For a future podcast episode, I think it'd be really cool if we took an opportunity to really study what exactly it's like to be in that environment, and why people cheer when they're in specific sporting events, and how that does make a different, I don't really want to say life-changing, but a different experience for them. I'd love to actually kind of invest into understanding the psychology of how a person just ends up starting to yell in the background, "Woo! You did it, John! I'm so proud of you! Oh my gosh, I'm so hyped about this game! I don't even know you at all, but you know what? I just want you to win." You know, I really wonder what makes people do that, what really tipped it off at the start. So maybe we can touch up on that on a future podcast episode. I'm foreshadowing for something maybe we might talk about later on in June, after E3, of course. So let's take this opportunity. I wanted to just kind of bring that as a discussion topic to maybe foreshadow and pitch us some ideas for the future.
Fantastic idea.
So now let's talk about some potential rumors about what we might see over at E3 this year. First of all, Dylan, how would you like to play Super Smash Brothers on the portable Nintendo Switch?
Well, my initial reaction before is fanboying. Yeah, of course, yeah. But then my actual reaction when I think is, wait, I own it on a 3DS. I own it on a Wii U. Do I need to own it on the Switch too?
However, is it exactly Super Smash Brothers though? That's the question that's coming up here. So the rumor right now is that Nintendo will be launching Super Smash Brothers for the Nintendo Switch. However, I don't know if any of you just heard that, but there was the loudest squeak from outside, and we weren't really sure what just happened.
It's the ghost of Mega Man. He's getting mad that we're not getting to his thing faster.
But anyway, I think what they're talking about is that it's a potential that it's not actually going to be Super Smash Brothers for the Wii U. It's going to be like the next edition after it, or a deluxe edition sort of spiel. So I wonder what exactly we're going to get out of that, you know. But first of all, let me get your thoughts on this. What do you think? Let's just assume that this is not going to be the actual Super Smash Bros. For Wii U, but it's probably going to be, in my opinion, like a Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Edition. So let's kind of talk about that for a second. What do you think we could potentially see out of that?
Okay, well, I might start to hate Nintendo a lot if this is if it's the same game, but they add new characters, they add more things. I will, and the reason why, and I'm not saying it, I'm saying it kind of in jest. But the reason why I'm saying I might hate Nintendo is because even if they re-release Smash for the Wii U and just add 4 new characters and like 3 new stages, I would hate myself because I would go out immediately, buy a Switch, and get ready because I would be so hyped. And I think that's what they have to do, is they have to make it more than just the Wii U version, because otherwise, why play this version if it's the same as the Wii U version?
Right.
On the flip side, I think it's very risky for them to do, because they also run the risk of kind of just burning themselves out. You see a lot of games that people release, and they're released, you know, over and over and over and over and over again, and you kind of get burnt out from playing the same thing. Yes, Smash 1, Melee, Brawl, and Smash for Wii U.
If we're being technical, Super Smash Bros. Should not even be existent right now, because after the original Super Smash Bros. On the Nintendo 64, the head creator of Super Smash Bros. Wanted to be done, but he made Melee, then he made then he made Brawl, and then he decided to make it for the Wii U, and then he said, "I'm done." So let's just assume that he is actually done. Now, granted, they still have the team technically of developers that they could reach out to and be like, let's make the next Super Smash Brothers. But what can you add that the Wii U version had before? Or is this going to be what we think it is, and it's just going to be some, you know, deluxe edition that's going to come with all the DLC characters that you had before, and you can get all the regular stages, and it's all going to be pre-packed, and maybe there's a bonus or two that's going to come with your Mii, but there's not really much that's going to go behind it.
I mean, if they simply add 1 or 2 characters, that will be enough to get people to buy it. I mean, people will buy this anyway, but it'll get people to especially buy it if... and one rumor that I heard, and it was like a very minor rumor, there's no proof of it, it was more of like a kind of headcanon for some fans.
Mm-hmm.
I heard someone, or an interesting rumor, or an interesting thought, that Geno from Mario... RPG Legend of the Seven Stars would be a DLC character in this version after a licensing agreement made between Squaresoft and Nintendo. That would make me buy the game immediately, because that would make me immediately go out, blow $400. That would sell me.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like they need to do more than that if they want this to be their killer app.
What if this is the game that we finally see Nintendo actually invest into its esport? How crazy would that be? Think about this for a second. Just hear me out. So you know how they had tournament mode in Brawl, right? What if there was a way that they could build it that people don't have to run through things like Smash GG, but it's ran through that system right there? Or, and that's kind of far-fetched, so bear with me, but what if like there was a way that they had it that it was built more for their actual like competitive sport? I know originally they didn't intend it, but just seeing Splatoon and now Splatoon 2 coming out for the Nintendo Switch, I really wonder if they're just really finally getting that vibe where maybe they could put this into something that's serious, which is weird that you would think that they would do that after so many games.
Well, Nintendo's always been family friendly, or like family oriented. Never really had any reason to push towards competitive gaming.
Right.
But with the world changing and, Twitch and things like that being more popular, people enjoy seeing competitive gameplay now.
Yep.
and that is where Smash gets a huge audience.
Let me add to that real quickly to point. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I read a really fun fact today that in this current generation, I guess you could say the millennials, in this current generation, it is found that approximately 41% of people prefer watching esports over regular sports right now. Another 40% prefer watching physical sports, and the remaining, I think it's like 16%, because I think it was like 43% or something for the physical sports, but the remaining 17%, 16%, whatever, is going toward they just don't really
are just
care.
indifferent.
They're just like, whatever. Like, let me go read a book or something.
Yeah.
You know, be a bunch of, you know, nerds.
Yeah, let me go kill a tree and read a book.
Or use something digital like I do.
Oh, okay,
but,
yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, sorry to cut you off there, but yeah, I just wanted to add that in there.
I mean, and that's a good analysis, but this is only a small part of our E3 rumor hype. So, where I said that this would be Nintendo's killer app, would be their big reveal. This is one of the things that would kind of propel them into stardom into the next few months and year.
Mm-hmm.
I think Microsoft has one that is very simple, overly simple, that might steal the show, and it's very simply crossplay with Halo 6.
Actually, to refine that, it's a rumor that Halo 6 might get released. That's not confirmed. Halo 6 might come out, and if it does, it's most likely going to be compatible to buy it on the computer, which is great because that might give us a tip that Microsoft is finally in that market where they really do want to make games compatible with both platforms. Maybe Halo 6 could potentially, if this falls into plan, could make it that any games that are starting to get produced through specific people, of course, that it can be ran through either Windows or through Microsoft. So maybe they're finally moving toward that trend if this is true.
I mean, think about this. You are a PC gamer.
Yeah.
This could be your first chance in years to play a Halo game.
If we're being theoretical, because I never owned an Xbox before, this will be my first experience, period.
That is crazy. One of the most well-known shooter franchises of all time. And this could be your PC gamer's first taste of it. And, of course, just Microsoft... I told you about my experience with crossplay before, right?
Yes.
Well, I got 2 games on my Xbox Play Anywhere or whatever, which was Guardians of the Galaxy's Telltale Episode 1. Fun.
Mm-hmm.
And Biohazard 7 or Resident Evil 7. And I played it on my computer and on my Xbox, and all my save data was transferred over, and it was just so smooth, so seamless. If I can do that with Halo 6, that might be Microsoft's ace in the hole here.
Right. And, of course, that's not the only thing that Microsoft is talking about, too. Of course, Halo 6 being a pretty cool hype machine as well. We tipped it before that they currently have a trademark out for their virtual reality system, which potentially could be used for gaming. That's really the only information that we know off of this trademark, is that it's most likely going to be used for the gaming platform. So I almost wonder, and I'm playing this out as a theory right now, and I would love to be right, because this would be super cool. What if the HoloLens that Microsoft is developing, what if that was actually a system you could use with both your Xbox and your regular computer simultaneously? Now, I know it's a little complicated because technically that VR system is supposed to be able to run independently from what I've understood. But what if you could just take what you use practically with your Xbox system and what you use for your computer system and really put the whole thing together? How cool would that be?
That would bring us into a new age of gaming. Mm-hmm. That really would. And here's the thing with VR as it relates to Microsoft doing this. Microsoft needs to differentiate itself from Sony's VR, because Sony's VR has gotten noteworthy attention. People buy it. People have played games for it. People have different opinions on it. And Microsoft can't just do what Sony does.
Right.
Microsoft has to use the fact that it has all of this integration, all the PC integration, and its own console, Xbox One, and it has to merge them in a way that can satisfy both audiences, kind of like Xbox Play Anywhere does.
Right.
So I think Microsoft has a good chance of just steamrolling in the next few years if this is handled right.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a year where they're going to have to beat Sony, at least on E3. Because if they don't, they're already behind. PlayStation and the PS4 Pro that have come out, they've topped Xbox sales since practically the next-gen consoles came out. So this is Sony's market right now, is in the console system. And with the PSVR, that's come into the factor that now Sony has an upper hand on this. And if if Microsoft doesn't change that field real quick with something that they can truly innovate, come up with something original, and make something that is, for me, more practical to use, this isn't going to cut it. It's not going to be their year to win. So I think, and the other reason I said that this is going to be Microsoft's year is because they know that this has to be their year. If it's not them this year, what are you going to do? Like, if they screw up this year and Sony does the normal things that they do and they're still winning, well, cool. Now you're just getting in a worse hole than you were before. And you're Microsoft. Like, you can't be losing this battle right now when you're claiming all of these amazing things that I haven't even seen implemented yet. Cross-platform, by the way, something they mentioned last year. I've only seen like 3 games with it. You said Guardians of the Galaxy. That's great. You've also seen Gears of War. That's great. Cool. You made it sound like literally every game could do it, though. That's where you're really struggling.
I can understand why it can't be every game because of licensing issues.
Also because of compatibility.
And compatibility. But there are a few games that should really be able to work. And those are, your big multiplayers, your killer apps, your Halos, your Gears of War, your... what's another killer app? Your Destiny, your all of these things.
Yep.
But I will admit that now I think Sony has a bit of a downturn here. Because if you look at what Sony did last year, they had hit developer after hit developer after hit developer throwing out names of interesting, new, unheard of things before. It's a little tricky if they can get away with that 2 years in a row. Because at this point, I'm already expecting a Call of Duty announcement. I'm already expecting an Uncharted announcement. I'm already expecting
Actually, hold on. Didn't they already announce Call of Duty?
Well, like, gameplay and, like, all that.
So you're saying, like, an actual legitimate, here's the release date, here's what we're expecting out of it. Okay.
And I'm already expecting a Tomb Raider thing. Like, there's all these common games that get enough releases that I'm just expecting already. They need to do something. They need to grab me and knock it and just send me flying. They just have to knock me out of the park with something.
Right.
And it can't be something that I'm already expecting. Because
like an open world Star Wars.
That would be something.
What a transition.
What a transition.
Rumor has it that there is potential that EA Games is considering of a potential new Star Wars game that is an open world platform. I know that you are considered in this dynamic duo the more avid lover of Star Wars, as you have been playing way more Star Wars games than I have. So I want to hear what your take is on it. If you could get an open world Star Wars game.
Okay, if this is like the Old Republic, the MMORPG, no. I don't need that again. It failed the first time. I don't need it again. However, if you can do something, if you can capture the magic in a bottle that the original Battlefront had, the original Knights of the Old Republic had, the original Jedi Knight series had, if you can give me a lightsaber, blasters, spaceship, and put me in the Star Wars universe, and give me that ability to just explore, do whatever, play with my friends, I would just love it. Like, give me, I almost want to say, give me a mixture of Star Wars, GTA, and Animal Crossing. Give me something like that, and I will love you.
Let's refine that. What if we could get the experience of the open world exploration of Grand Theft Auto? I think that's the way I would clarify it. Because I would love to see that. If you could find a way that... And the other thing I'm scared about this, too, is I really don't want it to be like the flop, that the game that I can't think of at this moment that just came out. It was a sci-fi game. You go and explore different planets. and it was an absolute flop because
No Man's Sky?
No Man's Sky. I don't want it to also become that. Now, I understand where you could be like, well, why would it become No Man's Sky? But think about it. Open world adventure, traveling to different planets, and build all of this amazing hype, but it takes too long and it's too tedious. I don't want that either. So to find that equilibrium balance where maybe you could make an open world game, not open world platform, make that game where it could be potentially something that could be of great interest, that I could go and I could fight everybody as I possibly could. Or I could just simply go out on adventures and scavenge material. We'll find out. Like, here's my mindset. I'm open to whatever they're going to say. I just need to know if it's going to be legitimate. You know, I don't want it to be that really disappointing feature where it's just tedious task after tedious task, and it's an open world adventure that turns into Real Life Simulator 2017. But I don't want it to be something that it's a straight line like Watch Dogs was, and they claim it's an open world adventure, but in reality it's like, by the way, go left, right, up, down, and then follow to get to this boss right here, and do this.
And that's where I kind of like and kind of dislike Rockstar's approach at Grand Theft Auto. If you could do the open world, the actual open worldness of, like I said, Animal Crossing, which is a weird thing to mix with Star Wars and Grand Theft Auto, but have the storytelling, the graphical excellence, and just the overall fun gameplay and free gameplay of Grand Theft Auto, and then give me the Star Wars universe with lightsabers, Force, everything cool about Star Wars. Merge those three things into one. Don't make it like No Man's Sky, and then we are fine. Yep. That will be the game I would spend money on.
Right. I think, again, I'm going to take this in as an opportunity to say, EA, just please, all that I ask is you don't overhype the situation, and we won't know what happened, and it's just going to be a disappointment.
Wait.
Like, I know you guys have that history of doing this really often.
EA? Overhyping something? Skyrim Remastered!
It's like Ubisoft.
New water!
Well, I guess we'll find out what happens with that then. So,
speaking of which, though, what do you think about Elder Scrolls? Do you think we're going to get a new Elder Scrolls, or do you think we're going to get... do you think we're finally going to get something that's not a remake, not a remaster, not a just kind of thrown out there thing?
What if I think it's going to be a remastered sci-fi version?
You've got my attention.
Because that's scary.
You've
and not actually what I was hoping would happen. So the rumor that has come out, and some of this is still confirmed, the game Starfield is officially coming out from Bethesda Game Studios. Now, we don't know what it's going to entail as part of the story. We know that it's going to be an open world, similar adventure type of game to what Skyrim was, but it's a sci-fi. So that's when the question comes in. Well, is it going to be as good as what Skyrim was? Like, am I going to be able to do the same things that I was able to do, but this time, instead of having a bow and arrow, I have a laser beam and a pulse cannon and my own spaceship versus a dragon? Or what's going to happen? Like, am I going to fight an alien in space?
You can't just reskin it.
Right. So now, again, this is another circumstance where I would go to you, because you are one that has played more Skyrim than I have. I don't know necessarily how much more, but if not, we can just try to bash brains about this and seem like we're intelligent like we usually do.
I played more Oblivion than Skyrim. I played more Fallout than anything else. But I am very familiar with Bethesda RPGs, and I'll admit I got bored with certain things, including I got bored with Fallout 4 after a time. I got bored with Oblivion after a time. I got bored with Skyrim after a time. But that was more because the games were they were great games. I will not say that they're bad games. But I will say that they didn't give me enough to continue to grab and pull me in. Because, A, there's no elements of multiplayer.
Mm-hmm.
B, once you beat the main story, in most cases, you're kind of done there. You can't really do much else. 3, grinding gets boring after a while, which is essential in Bethesda RPGs. But on the flip side, you also kind of love those. You love the characters, the charming aspects of these things. I feel like if Bethesda or EA does this right, this next Skyrim in space, basically, could be a good game, but it just has to eliminate a lot of the flaws that Skyrim and the Elder Scrolls series as a whole kind of have with it.
So I'm going to have to pull back what I just said a second ago. I'm sorry that I just said that Starfield was confirmed. It was not confirmed. It is still a rumor. I needed to reread this article from TheVerge.com. I apologize. I take that one. Starfield is still considered just a rumor at this point. It's along with a list of potential things that could be along with this. So let me just read this through here. With the publisher committed to Elder Scrolls Online, which is true. In addition to that, they're also looking to support Fallout 4 in this time span as well. So you know that they're going to stay on top of things with that game. They filed for Starfield's trademark in 2013. But it's just still a possibility that it's going to come in. You know, publishers have teased that it might come out during E3 this year. And if it does, hooray.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, okay.
Yeah, well,
it's a hooray or okay moment in my opinion. And I actually kind of like how that's worded there.
Now,
however, there is sequels potentially coming out of Evil Within and Wolfenstein and maybe Fallout. I don't know if that one's actually true. A sequel to Wolfenstein New Order has been teased since October of last year, and possibly E3 2016. As for The Evil Within, rumors of a sequel to the horror adventure circulated in March following a leaked job listing. My Fallout prediction is, to be transparent, coming entirely from the gut.
Yeah, okay.
Seems legit. It's The Verge. I don't know if that's any particular difference or if I'm bashing them or not. They write better material than I do, so we'll just put it like that.
I think this is news because I really want it to be news.
It's fake news.
I like for alternative facts.
Right. So Bethesda's Fallout Shelter, a massively popular mobile game hit, was originally announced at E3. What better place to reveal a sequel? Then there's a question of what comes out after Fallout 4. The open world game cost many millions of dollars to produce, and though it has outperformed the studio's previous champ, Elder Scrolls V, which was true and insane to see the amount of success that Fallout 4 came out when it came out. One of the most best-selling games I've ever seen in my time.
Hyped for it. I was super hyped for it. I mean,
I feel like there was also just this train of people that never played the original games either, and they're just like, "Oh my goodness, this clearly must be good because everyone's buying it." Granted, that's not a bad thing for a company.
No.
But
I mean, when you have a license, that's what you want.
Right. It stands to reason a publisher will want to milk the investment even further. Fallout 5 is unlikely, which makes sense because remember, they do want to try to support Fallout 4 still, and a lot of people are still on that Fallout 4 trend. Not as many as before because, you know, it's been almost 2 years now.
Yeah, about
2 years since this game's been out. So we don't necessarily have to expect it, but maybe we'll see more of a series form of a spin-off. I do like how they word this. Potentially, it could be Fallout New Vegas.
Yes.
Which I think is possible, for sure. But, Spencer Player Rockstar is done with its money printing machine, Grand Theft Auto Online, which also is true as well. Grand Theft Auto 5 has been out for what?
4, 5?
It has definitely been out greater than 5 years, and it has still printing money.
No, that company. Was it out in 2013?
You're making me Google stuff.
Because, like, I'm trying to think. It's probably about 5 years old. I don't think it's much older, but...
Well, it depends on which one we look at.
2013.
But was that the original date, though? Because remember, it came out for next-gen consoles and PC later.
So...
I'll just do PS3 just to be safe.
Yeah.
It came out in 2013. 2014 was when it came out on It was released on September 17, 2013 for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. In November 2014 was the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. 2015, it finally came out for the computer. So it was 2 years later.
That's when you could play.
That's when I could play it because I never bought an Xbox One or a PS4 because I knew I wanted to stay with the PC Master Race. So that answers that question. Hooray for Googling. Anyway, so I think it's safe to say, based on that analysis and what we kind of just threw out as ideas here, I almost feel like we shouldn't really expect that much from Bethesda on this one. Maybe Starfield, but if you also think about it, between the last few years that they've had all these games come out, they could still milk a lot of money out of those
definitely.
games. And if you think about it, if they add another game into that mix, well, granted, they can make a lot of money getting those games out there. It's just, there's a point that you go, when do I want to run maintenance on a game, or when do I want to create a game? And that's when you draw that fine line. And if you add another one to that mix, you might have some burnout that people won't play that game, and then you end up shutting down that game, and it comes into play. Like, you know, if they're still milking profits off of Fallout 4, why would you make Fallout 5 if you're still making a lot of money off of that? If I still have a concurrent base player rate of, you know, X amount of players, then it could justify keeping the game available.
Of course.
That's why we haven't seen anything from Valve in years. I guarantee you that's why, because they realize that Dota 2 is still one of the top gross players per day ratio. I think that's how I word that. It's the most players that Steam has on a regular basis that you'll get. So why make a Dota 3?
Exactly. And here's a
or you know what? Or we could do what Heroes of the Storm did and go Heroes of the Storm 2.0 with a couple reskins, couple map outtakes, and a couple patch updates, and call it 2.0.
That's basically what it is, honestly.
Let's not be what Heroes of the Storm is. Thank you, Blizzard, for being idiots.
Wait, we've been going on for a while, but let's do this. Let's kind of go from you to me and just bounce ideas, things that we would personally like to see, whether they're, and then guess.
I want to see more Rocket League content. I'm just kidding.
And then see how likely that is. Because here's the thing: do you know if Psyonix is gonna be there?
No,
not
that at least that I'm aware of. I cannot confirm any of that information, though.
But what if they were to, great example, what if they were about to announce a...
Oh, they've already announced it at RLCS. That's why I was joking earlier, because they made their big announcement already. So they're not likely going to be at E3. I was just pitching that as a joking idea.
But I mean, like, what would happen, and here's what I'm theorizing. All right, stick with me here. All right,
okay.
Envision it. Gran Turismo, whatever, or Forza, whatever. Like, whatever.
Gran Turismo, but you know, hey.
Yeah, like, whatever. Like, the next...
We're Gran Turismo 5!
Like, the next great racing game. You see it on the screen.
Yes.
And then you see a pre-order bonus come up.
Okay.
And it's something from Rocket League.
Okay.
It's like some cool, like, you get, like, your nitrous turns into, like, Rocket, like, they implement Rocket League into it somehow.
Okay.
Or, like, if you say, there's, like, you know, just, it makes a cameo, or it's like a special something, or a special partnership. Again, nothing announced yet, but would you freak if you were watching it and saw something cool?
I'd be surprised and kind of go, why, though? Kind of like when they had the WWE sponsorship. But that's not my prediction, though. What I want to get to, that I would like to see, I think the Super Smash Bros. Idea is great. I just don't think that it's what I want, though. Mm-hmm. I don't want another Mario Kart Deluxe Edition that goes out, because then you get to this point that it just doesn't make sense for me to get a Nintendo Switch, because if you really think about it, you've got a Wii U. If the Deluxe Edition just literally came with all of the other players with it, and the maps and all of that, it's just no point to me. Like, it's the same game.
Yeah.
If they totally redid it, hooray. My focus, I think, for this E3 is going to be what Nintendo does. Granted, Microsoft and Sony, they have some great things that could potentially come in for them. But when it comes down to it, if I don't see Nintendo do something with the Switch soon, that hype and intense amount of sales that they've gotten already from the Switch is just going to plummet, and it's just going to be a phase rather than an actual legitimate part of everyone's daily life. So if they don't start releasing some games that people are going to be like, holy crap, let's do something, then I just don't think it's going to be worth it. Cool, Super Smash Bros. Is potentially coming. Cool, Mario Kart 8 is already on the previous platform, but all you did was just add the DLC. Cool, you have a second version of Splatoon on there. And cool, you have probably one of your best-selling Legend of Zelda games on that system. That's neat. That's 4 games, though.
Yeah.
What can I do with a Sony PlayStation 4? What can I do with an Xbox One? More importantly, what can I do with a computer system right now? There just isn't enough there yet for Nintendo really to say, we are going to be a big competitor in this market. They don't own that majority share yet. They just sold a lot. That's it.
Well, here's what I'm looking at for Nintendo. Here's my crack prediction. It's what I want to see. I want to see an exclusive main series Pokemon game on the Switch that is of the quality of what we expect in bigger titles. Like, great example, I've been playing a lot of Persona 5 lately.
Mm-hmm.
Massive game. I'm easily going to get about, I clipped there, about 1,000 hours I'm probably going to get out of it just from playing it, because there's so much to do. The graphics are beautiful, it's stunning, fun to play, not boring me at all. I want to see like a big cinematic Pokemon game.
So in theory, you want to see the truly next-gen Pokemon game.
The truly next-gen, not just what I buy, put into my 3DS, and play while I'm lazily sitting back.
So would you say you would almost want to see a Pokemon game that is a more open-world type of adventure, but with the same battle sequence as it was before?
Yes.
Like, imagine you're in an open-world environment very similar to what Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild was.
Kind of.
But that if you were going through wild grass or whatever, you would still get that circumstance where you'd come up and you'd fight the Pokemon to try to catch it or fight it or whatever your case would be. If you could do something like that, that would be so cool. Like, if you had a next-gen Pokemon system come through like that, but who knows? Maybe maybe they'll just make a mobile version of Pokemon Go for that system.
Man, that would be so bad.
That would be horrible.
That's our Nintendo, like what we'd want from Nintendo. What would you want to see from Sony?
You know, I want them to find a way to make their PSVR systems more cost effective. Granted, they got a lot of sales from the PSVR, but I still just don't feel convinced. Like, if I was to say I theoretically had $1,000 right now that I could spend on whatever, I still wouldn't invest it into that whole PS system, because it just doesn't justify its means yet for me that if I bought a PS4 Pro console, if I bought a PSVR, and I put that all together, it just doesn't seem like I want to put that amount of money into it yet. So I don't think it's it. I think it's going to be the cost-effective VR system. It's going to be a couple other game releases, just in general. I mean, I'm not really too picky about that one. Their floor is pretty open for me. I feel like Sony is at this point that they just really don't have to really fight too hard at this E3. You know, because they're top of it right now. They're on top when it comes to console sales, and I could almost arguably say gaming sales, but I know that the computer is still in that circumstance anyway.
Well, but a lackluster performance here will tank Sony.
Oh yeah.
So my personal thing that I want to see from Sony is, and it's a stretch. It is a very long stretch, but I want to see Sony try to do what Microsoft did. And Microsoft had a big advantage. I want to see Sony cross over to the PC world.
There was a rumor that they were going to start doing that, but I think it's a hard complication because think about it. Over 70% of people, I think it's 70%, use Windows.
Mm-hmm.
And if Microsoft right now is trying to go into that market and really press on with it, well, granted, they could walk them into this situation, but that's where Microsoft really comes in with the upper hand. They have the operating system of the majority user base that they use.
Here's where I'm going to say what Sony needs to do to, as a strategist, what Sony needs to do to get over that. Apple.
So you're telling me that you want to play PS4 games on an Apple system?
Now, hear me out.
I really am looking forward to hearing how this is going to unveil.
So Sony needs to make itself available on a PC or on a computer.
Okay.
However, you're not going to get that on Windows, of course. Mm-hmm. And yeah, doing it with Linux would just be odd. Like,
it's not often, it's not bad, but it's not people would do it.
But like, it would be like, hey, we're going to have PS4 games that you can play, but only if you use Linux. Like, that's a weird thing. But
you get like one guy in the back of that E3 conference going, woo!
But
Ubuntu.
but gamers who have Macs are struggling because Macs just can't play a lot. They cannot handle what you can handle on your computer, what I can handle on my computer. They just can't handle games that way.
Right.
So if you could find a way to adapt adapt what you have to a Mac, you would get a whole audience that Microsoft can't touch and that Nintendo can't touch. That no one else can touch.
But it's still not a strong enough market share. I just don't think it's worth it. That's just my honest opinion. I just don't think it's worth it.
I said it was a long stretch.
I see where you're coming from, and I think that as an idea, it is a good thought. But I'm just speaking from the realistic perspective.
Yeah.
The moment that you say that, you're going to get the PC gaming race that's just going to go, that's so dumb.
Well,
who cares?
Well, they will say that,
and it's going to become an unfortunate joke of Sony, and it's really going to bite them in the butt if they do that.
They will say that, except for the people that don't have gaming PCs, have Macs, and want to play a video game that they can't actually play.
So if you walked into a presentation that of which 70 out of the 100 people that were in there were like really avid PC users, and they said, "Hey, we're gonna go to Mac."
That's a tough estimation because
is it?
I do not think 70% of people at E3 are hardcore PC gamers.
Well, I mean, they're journalists, so they're probably going to own a Mac. But I'm talking about from the general audience. I'm talking about if you and I walked into it, like that kind of audience.
You and I are a different audience, though, because you have to think. We are in a particular audience. I mean, I have a PS4, an Xbox One, gaming PC. I have a lot of my hands in a bunch of different pies. You are primarily a PC gamer. PC gaming, while it's becoming a lot more common, is still not it's still not the vast majority of gaming nowadays.
Yeah, I know.
So,
but that's not where I'm walking with this, though. I'm just saying that your point where you're saying that a Mac user or a Linux user would be able to use a PS4 system and be compatible with that Mac or Linux system is a lot less likely that you're hitting a big market share. Like what I'm saying is, if I reached out to a group of 100 people and only 70 of them, if only 30 of them in that group cared and they owned a Mac system or a Linux system, and they're like, "Oh, that's so amazing! They finally support our systems. No one's ever done that before." That's cool, but that's not the majority. That if you touch up into that PC gaming race, and when I say PC, I don't mean just a Windows user. I mean in general. Like, you don't touch a lot of people with that.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm getting at. I'm not saying that it's console generations suck or all that stuff. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that just doesn't seem practical that it's going to happen.
And again,
but if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
It is a long shot, and it's not even that exact thing, but it's more of the concept of that, because there are so many markets that are just left untapped right now.
Right.
And I'm not saying just strictly PC. I'm not saying strictly Mac, but I'm also saying like mobile gaming. There is kind of a weird middle ground for mobile gaming right now. That Sony could definitely aim for. I guess my thing for Sony, what they need to do at E3 this year, what I'm predicting, what I want to see, is them stepping away from just their own thing and trying to get involved with something else.
Okay.
Like, whether it be PC gaming, whether it be mobile gaming, whether it be, heck, they can do the Sony live action American Ninja Warrior challenge. Like, just get something away from your typical Sony-ness.
Yeah.
And become something, like, just do something different.
Okay. So basically you're just saying you're looking for something that is going to be a lot of a different pace than what we see from Sony.
Like what Microsoft...
Willing to take a risk, basically.
Like what Microsoft did last year with, out of nowhere, it was like, hey, we have these new custom controllers. We have Play Anywhere. We like there are concepts that at the time no one was thinking about, and then when they heard them, whoa, that's a great idea, and then it happened. I'm just looking for something like that.
Okay. I can respect that. I think that definitely comes into an effect for it, but we won't know until E3 comes back next week, and you're going to be with us on that Wednesday, next Wednesday, that is. Or if you're watching this podcast afterward, we'll of course be covering that as well.
While we're wrapping this up, let's do one more quick thing.
Sure.
We talked about what we are expecting from Sony. what works, or what we would like our dream for Sony would be. What are the thing for Nintendo?
Right.
What do you think Microsoft? What would you want to see from Microsoft? What are you craving from Microsoft? If you want me to go first,
that's a good. No. I think that's a great question, and I'm just compiling what I would really like to see them do. I said it before. They need to go out guns a blazing in this one. They're down in sales right now. They're struggling, and if they want to beat Sony right now, and they want to get back on top of that market, they're going to have to do something that's going to change the game when it comes to their console system, which is going to have to basically say, we need a new experience. This VR trend is a very high likelihood. Now, I said before that in Sony's system, I wouldn't be willing to spend that $900 approximate dollars for a PS4 system and a PSVR.
Of course.
I would consider potentially putting in $1,500 to $2,000 for doing a system that I could run a computer, run a console,
and an Xbox, and
also have that VR system and run independently between both of them. How cool would that be?
That
if I could walk
would
around.
Be worth. Like, I'll admit, it would take a lot of saving up, but
Or,
I would.
Or
do
even if it's like I can't necessarily do what exactly I want to, but if that HoloLens comes in and I can run it on my computer and I can also run it on games on the Xbox One, so I have that ability to do both, then also their cross-platform play finally works.
Whew, that would be powerful.
That's when I know that they would finally be taken over. I'm waiting, I have been waiting for a long time, in my opinion, for them to finally have this realization that they have a console and they have the operating system of a majority of PC game users, and I'm waiting for that point when they say, here's this, they are now one, they're going to be that big, competitive market, and it doesn't matter anymore, because they're going to own 2 out of 3 of the major components of this, 2 out of 4, I guess, of the major chains that we see for gaming today. Like, you could take over and do this if you could just make it that your games would be able to be supported over your PC system, not just Gears of War, Guardians of the Galaxy, and 2 other titles.
They have to stop treating all of their assets as...
We need to stop having segregation between the console and the PC between Microsoft systems. We need to stand up for equality for our systems. That's what I'm saying.
Get off your soapbox, Jordan.
I have a dream, and that dream is for me to play any Xbox game on the PC system. Thank you. I am not Martin Luther King Jr. I just had a realization I could have that opportunity to do that.
That is actually, but that is again a really great kind of want from Microsoft. For me, I'm a little bit more on the kind of safer side, I guess you could say. For Microsoft, what I'm expecting is something decent to all right, promising to come from their whole VR type thing.
Yeah.
But more importantly than that, I would like to see Microsoft reach out more to indie developers, because they've done that before. Microsoft has done it where they have looked at indie developers, said, hey, we want to port your games or actually just pay you to make a new game for us. Like they did with Braid, like they did with Shadow Complex, stuff like that. If you can't beat Sony and Nintendo in the game department, with these established franchises like Uncharted, Animal Crossing, Pokemon, Legend of Zelda, Mario, if you can't beat them in that department of franchise games, beat them in creativity, beat them in innovation, beat them in something new.
That's exactly what I'm thinking is going to come through. I think Microsoft needs to, they don't necessarily have to have the next craziest games because they're Microsoft. You own Steam. Okay, let me rephrase that. They're a big component to what Steam uses. Mm-hmm. And then in addition to that, they're also really, really big already, which means that they have backings from major companies like Ubisoft, EA Games, Bethesda, everybody like that. They have that backing already. So all you have to do is really push for that innovation, push for that originality, push for something that I'm going to want to see and be like, I want to get an Xbox. I don't necessarily need it, but it will add to my experience as a PC gamer enthusiast, or it could also add to my experience as a general gamer. That's all that I'm really going with. So I think if they could do something like that, that'd be fantastic here. But I know we're going a little bit over our time here.
But it's a great discussion.
It's a great prediction podcast for us. But next week is when we actually get to sit down and actually get to talk about
the
this.
meat and potatoes of E3 will be revealed to us by next Wednesday.
Exactly. Now, well, not all of it, because it's a 3-day event. We're technically coming in on Wednesday. We're considering about doing it live. We might actually move it to doing it on Thursday.
So we can get
We're
the
not
entire
sure
thing.
yet.
Yeah.
For those of you that are going to be listening to this on Podbean, you're probably going to hear the entire prediction. I'm just letting you know right now. Or even on YouTube, whatever. It's going to be ready. It's going to be there, and we're going to be hyped. And I hope you're going to be hyped. I hope that you join us along with the journey, and I hope that you support us on Patreon as well. What a plug. But thank you guys so much for tuning in today. It is as always, a pleasure to sit down, talk more games with you guys, and see what we got coming up here. Dylan, is there anything else you want to add along with this before we head out?
Hey, do as the dude does.
Do as the dude does. I like that saying. I'm glad that we were able to key it a while back. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to follow our Twitter at Level Up Weekly. Support us on Patreon, patreon.com/levelupweekly. And of course, you can watch this episode live on twitch.tv/levelupweekly on Wednesdays, or you can also see it on YouTube or hear the audio version available on Podbean, SoundCloud, and iTunes. You have plenty of platforms to watch this from, so we hope that you're going to be able to tune into us, guys. So thank you so much for watching today, and I'm Sfernaday, joining alongside with Dylan the Dude, signing out.